Hello and welcome back. Today I'm excited to unveil the presidential fantasy draft that was completed inside the 270 Facebook Lounge. Myself and two other lounge mates participated. We took turns drafting all 45 presidents. Make sure you watch the video, leave a comment, let us know how we did, and tell us who won the draft. I'm in this draft, but I'm not going to tell you which team I am until our part 2 video, which will be hitting the channel in the coming weeks, where we actually defend a lot of our picks. For our draft, we had a snake draft. So the order was 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, etc. I'm going to show you the big board 1 through 45 first, and then go into the teams specifically. For the criteria, you guys are the audience. You are going to determine who won, who had the best draft. Let us know who had the worst draft, the best and worst picks of the draft. But we were supposed to only look at the office of the presidency, not for people in their time before or after. Keep that in mind when you are determining your pick for best draft. Coming in at the top spot is the conservative Ronald Reagan, a beloved presidential figure. He passed legislation to speed up economic growth and strengthened our national defense. And at number 2, we had George Washington, our first president who really set the foundation for only serving 2 terms. He could have taken more power, but chose not to. Abraham Lincoln is number 3 for his crisis leadership, leading us through the Civil War and signing the Emancipation Proclamation freeing slaves. JFK was selected 4th for his leadership during the Cold War. And the avid outdoorsman Teddy Roosevelt rounds out the top 5. FDR came in at 6. Dwight D. Eisenhower was selected 7th, Thomas Jefferson was picked 8th, and James Monroe 9th. Anyone can pick a big-name president, but this tier was challenging. Picks 10 through 18, we had Richard Nixon at the very top, followed by Harry S. Truman, the expansionist James Polk at pick number 12, and then the other George Bush, George H.W. Bush, at 13, followed by Calvin Coolidge at 14, the polarizing Woodrow Wilson at 15. Pick 16 had Bill Clinton. Pick 17 had Ulysses S. Grant. And rounding out this range, we had pick 18 and James Madison. Let me know your thoughts. Who was the best pick in this range? And who was the worst? Picks 19 through 27. I've always found it interesting to analyze John Adams versus John Quincy Adams. In this draft, John Adams went before John Quincy. At 19, John Adams, who never called for war and worked for negotiations to bring about a peace deal with France, followed by Grover Cleveland. Again, he served twice, but we only picked him once for this draft. After John Quincy, at number 22, we had William McKinley, followed by the other William Howard Taft. At pick 24, we have a modern president. Barack Obama came off the board. Historians view Obama a little bit higher, but again, our group might be a little bit biased. We either are more moderate or lean to the right. Gerald Ford came in at pick number 25, and then Andrew Jackson, an interesting pick at pick 26, followed by George W. Bush at 27. This range was tough. We were all looking for that diamond in the rough. Picks 28 through 36. Jimmy Carter came off the board, pick 28. I think we can all agree Jimmy Carter's a great person, but his presidency caused him to fall down the board. At pick 29, we had Lyndon B. Johnson. And pick 30, Rutherford B. Hayes. James Garfield and Chester Arthur went back-to-back, 31 and 32, followed by Donald Trump. Nobody really knew when Donald Trump was going to be picked, and I can't wait to talk about him and Joe Biden and other modern presidents in our reaction video coming to the channel soon. Rounding out this range, we had William Henry Harrison at 34, Benjamin Harrison at 35, and John Tyler at 36. This last range of presidents is 37 through 45. We have the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, at 37, followed by Zachary Taylor and Martin Van Buren. Pick 40, we have Millard Fillmore, good old Herbert Hoover at 41, 42, Warren G. Harding, 43, 44, and 45. Some presidents to forget, potentially. We had Franklin Pierce, and then James Buchanan, and then Andrew Johnson. Are you going to judge teams based on their winners, or are you going to base them off of their losers? Their overall, are there going to be deal breakers for you? Those are choices you're going to have to make. But let's take a look at the individual teams. The first team we're going to look at is the Liberty Leaders. They started the draft with Ronald Reagan, FDR, Eisenhower, Polk, and George H.W. Bush. The leader is an interesting word in their name. This has no ramification on the draft, but when you look at the leadership, you have Reagan, the leader of the Conservative Party. You have FDR, who led the country out of the Great Depression. You have Eisenhower, who led our country in military, again, not while he was president. You have Obama, who led us as the first African-American president. And then you had other presidents like Joe Biden leading us today. And then you had some other not-so-good presidents like Franklin Pierce leading us before the Civil War right into our bloodiest conflict in American history. I think it's easy to say you could argue this team is a great team that's been assembled. However, you have to start asking the question, Ronald Reagan at number 1? Really? Put a bunch of people in a room, Republicans, Democrats, and I'm not so sure that you're going to have Reagan at number 1 very often over the likes of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and other people who were drafted in the top 10 of this particular draft. 2 picks I really like from this team are James Madison and James Garfield. Let's look at the next team. The second team, Stars and Stripes, started off the draft by selecting George Washington, and then Teddy Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, Harry S. Truman, and Calvin Coolidge in his top 5. When you look at the pictures, look at all the black and white presidents. And of course, even one of the presidents in color is George Washington. I think this owner had to make the choice between Washington and Lincoln, and it will be interesting to hear why he chose Washington. There are 3 presidents I want to hear this team defend in part 2 of the video. Ulysses S. Grant was picked 6th overall by this team, followed by Andrew Jackson, 9th, and LBJ 10th. All 3 of those presidents are viewed in a variety by historians. They had scandal or chaos or racism or overspending, and I want to hear Stars and Stripes defend their picks. Love their top picks. And then James Buchanan, I know at the very end, you're faced with the bottom of the barrel, but that guy was not a great president. A couple picks that I really like from this team are Calvin Coolidge at number 5, Teddy Roosevelt at number 2, and even though Thomas Jefferson is kind of a bit controversial when it comes to his philosophy and the way he was thinking as a president, I think he was a great president. The final team is the Dream Defenders, and Abraham Lincoln defended our dream of having no slavery, and he won the Civil War, one of our greatest presidents in American history, and he's at the top of this team, followed by JFK, James Monroe, Richard Nixon, and Woodrow Wilson in this team's top 5. Now, this team features every single president who's ever been impeached. It has Donald Trump. It has George W. Bush on the conservative side, has Bill Clinton, has JFK on the more liberal side, and it has Andrew Johnson, who I think correctly was the last pick in this draft. I think he was the worst president we've ever had in America. JFK going 2, I'll be interested to hear this owner defend that pick. I do think that he might be a little bit inflated because of his assassination. But McKinley, Carter, this team has a lot of personality to it. And it will be interesting to hear what you guys think, if this team is the best team or if there is another team that will take that top spot. So again, please comment who your favorite team is. Please comment who your best picks were, the worst picks, and we are going to dive into this and hopefully talk about it in part 2 on 270 videos. Hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, this is Brendan Borman, and I will catch you guys in the next 270 video.